Okay, well, that's great. Thank you for setting it up. We wanted to talk tonight about volunteering for and with the San Diego Makers Guild and about ways that people would be excited to participate in various makers and making activities in the San Diego area. So we're welcoming everybody who's here. We hope that we'll be joined by some more people in the next few minutes. Hi, Conrad. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Hi. Okay, so everybody, this is Conrad Salinas. Conrad is at Let's Go Robotics, and he's one of the people who's recently come to meetups. And one of the reasons that I was asking Conrad to be here tonight was to get some of his ideas about volunteering, and hopefully you can hear me, because I see you leaning in. If I'm speaking too quietly, please flag me.
There's actually some kind of feedback. I don't know if it's you particular, Margie, but I only saw your microphone move up and down. But there's some kind of rubbing, or I don't know what it is.
Let me mute my mic and see if that helps it.
Okay, whoever's rubbing, stop rubbing.
So you hear it too, right? I don't know. It's kind of weird. It seems to only show up when you are talking, Margie. So I don't know if it's some background noise or something with your microphone, but we hear your voice clearly along with this rubbing sound.
It's the washing machine or doing laundry. Okay.
The culprit. The culprit.
Okay, so one of the things that we were talking about was we've got a variety of different people here. Ross just arrived. Maybe we could quickly get introductions from everybody and then start into this. So my name is Margie Plock. I'm one of the co-presidents of the San Diego Makers Guild and working with people to help promote and expand awareness of makers and making and maker education in the San Diego area. Travis?
I'm Travis. Love makers, making, and the importance that it can have on education and learning. And so I'm doing whatever I can to support that.
Hi, my name is Jose. I stumbled upon all of these wonderful people when the last Maker Faire happened in 2013, and on the run-up to all of that, we've been able to work on a lot of cool things together, and into making and robots and all the cool stuff that's happening here in San Diego.
I guess I'll go next. Kevin started also the Maker Faire, but before that with Fab Lab, doing a lot of volunteer work with teaching and whatnot. I am now no longer in San Diego, but I'm still being out where I can, and I will continue to do so as long as I physically can.
Ross?
Hi, I'm Ross. Not really sure why I'm here. Just helping out.
Janine?
Hi, I'm Janine Ray, and I like logistics. And that's about it.
Ewan? Ewan?
Yes. Not really sure why I'm here.
Go ahead, Ross.
No, that was feedback. Sounds like a delay in some sound.
That was a killer delay. That was like a 40-second delay.
Yeah, it must be someone's playing it in a separate window, which I was actually doing as well, so that causes feedback.
The question was?
No, that was feedback. It was like a delay in some sound.
Would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I believe that is you, Dan, and Ewan. You must have another window open with a live, minute so delay of this video being played, so we can hear some feedback when you guys talk. So I think Katie joined a little late. You want to explain to her what's going on?
Yeah,
Katie.
Katie, we're introducing ourselves, and then after Katie introduces herself, Conrad, would you introduce yourself after that?
Sure.
Question.
Okay.
Hi there. Hi, I'm Katie Rass. Nice to see at least one new face on here, and an old one. Hey, Kev.
Hey.
I'm a big believer in the maker movement, and really loved being a part of Maker Faire 2014 and no 2013, and I'm looking forward to this next one. I'm sitting. Sorry for all the noise. I'm sitting right now in the Fab Lab, and we have lots of activity going on around us, including very loud hammering and lots of people talking. So I'm going to keep myself on mute until it's time to talk.
Hi, I'm Conrad. I'm actually in Starbucks right now. A little bit noisy, but it's okay. So I'm a big believer in the maker movement too. I've been to several of the Bay Area Maker Fairs, and I just like getting involved and seeing the kids just happy and educated about cool things out there that they can make. So.
Thank you. Dan and Ewan, do you guys want to try again to introduce yourselves?
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dan Hendricks. I'm both a serial and parallel maker. Do lots of projects all at the same time. I also started a makerspace in North County, Open Source Maker Labs, where we are now. And by day, I'm an engineer.
So my name's Ewan Tran. This is my third makerspace that I'm showing up at today. I work at the library downtown, and I had a great time meeting all of these people actually at the previous Maker Faire. So I'm looking forward to helping with the next one.
Great. Thank you all. So one of the things that we were talking about was trying to ask people about the things that they really enjoy doing and ways in which they feel like they could really contribute to the maker movement and especially to the Makers Guild in San Diego. So I wanted to, Conrad, are you moving or looks like you're moving?
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so while Conrad is walking, Janine, can you talk a little bit about things that you really like to do and the ways in which you feel like you could make a contribution to making, or the ways in which you are currently making a contribution as a volunteer?
Okay. Apparently I have to unmute the mute microphone first. So I got involved with the Maker Faire by just volunteering to help with signage and logistics. It's what I love to do, is connecting needs to wants and finding the people that will fill those spots. I am rambling. I don't really know. I spent way too much time at the Art Center today. I think what I like to do is I like to find out what people want and then figure out a way to get that to them. So currently right now I am helping San Diego Art Institute bringing in 2 makers. The 2 makers that they're bringing in are heavily involved in recycled arts. So Travis came up with a great suggestion of a take-apart. So we're going to have a table that is going to be kids can come in and take things apart, and then they can go to the two artists that are going to be there, and they will help them make jewelry or something else with the parts that they've just taken apart. That's it.
Great.
Can I just comment as a spectator of what Janine has been up to? Janine loves logistics. That's what she said at the outset. Janine also, it turns out, loves arts, crafts, and the theme of recycling. She is doing exactly those two things in a big way for our upcoming STEAM Family Day at Balboa Park. And she went to the park today. Janine, you got there at what time?
10:30.
Okay. And you texted me you'd left when?
3:30.
And were you having fun?
Yes. And oh, by the way, I got us that big Kodak machine. I got her to donate that to Art Institute for a take apart.
That's great. Well done. Sorry, Margie. I just happened to have been close recently to what Janine's been up to, and it's so wonderful to see somebody doing something they enjoy so much and making such an important difference to what we're trying to do. It's just a great combination.
That's an awesome example. Thank you both for that. I think that let me just sort of take a step back and try to quickly give everybody a 5,000-foot overview. What Janine and Travis are working on, and one of the opportunities that we have for volunteers, is STEAM Family Day in Balboa Park, which will be March 15th. And on that day, there's going to be makers and maker-related activities in 8 different museums. Travis, I think that number is about right. So Janine and Travis and Dan and Yuen and Jose are all working with different museums to help coordinate with makers. So that's an event where we're going to need some day of event volunteers to help in various museums, but it's a great example of an outreach event where we're trying to bring more awareness of making to the community, to provide the educational piece about making to the community, and also just to give makers a chance to interact with each other within the community.
Hey, Margie, could you tell the story of Kimberly? Because it's another one where somebody wanted to do something and they want to do a particular kind of thing, and they're going to make a big difference at STEAM Family Day.
So one of the people who couldn't be on the call, and thanks, Travis, for thinking of her, Kim Groms, did volunteer at the Maker Faire, the Mini Maker Faire in 2013, and she wanted to get back involved in the community again. I think, Conrad, maybe you met her at the meetup last month, and so I was thinking of Kim in terms of programming, because that's what she does as her day job, and she emailed me and she said, you know, I really want to do something with people and not just be behind the keyboard and not just be programming. And we said, great, there's this fantastic opportunity because part of STEAM Family Day is the Prado Walkway. And there are going to be 3 tables that will have 3D printers, that will have drones, that will have members of the Makers Guild, and hopefully we'll have a takeaway activity so that kids can come to the table and do something, even if it's something really simple that connects them to making, that lets them be makers. So we said to Kim, hey, would you like to run this? So Kim is currently the person who's going to be organizing those tables and getting those events ready. So it's really, as Travis says, a great example of somebody saying, hey, this is what I really like to do, and there's a fantastic opportunity that she could step right into.
Can I share with you one of my favorite things about Kim? Is that when you get Kim, you get Matt and 2 kids. You get an entire core of people. There's a squad that shows up. And last year for Maker Faire, they took hundreds of feet of PVC and cut them down to the right sizes and did the assembly to make these stands that we hung our banners from and that we used for signage and that sort of thing. And they had in their home like this production team, and they had their 12-year-old and they had their 8-year-old, and mom and dad all engaged in a family making activity, which was actually pretty darn important for Maker Faire. So one of my favorite parts about Kim is it's a package.
Absolutely, absolutely. Kevin, you and I had an email exchange because you had some ideas for things that you were really kind of interested in as a way to be able to volunteer remotely. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I know originally when I was still living in San Diego, I was capable of doing more hands-on things. So I was definitely more involved in doing the booths, going to day events, doing the meetups and things like that. So really interacting with people, and I very much enjoy that. But at the same time, on the off hours, I was doing some of the IT work online to help the group kind of communicate. Now that I'm not physically in San Diego anymore, in Colorado, I'm doing still the IT work side of things, but I want to still contribute to the group as a whole, other than just, like Kim said earlier, behind a keyboard. So my latest passion is looking into doing app development. So I know for the last fair, one of the requests were people, they wanted maps to look around and walk around with and get more information on booths. So I'm thinking, hey, maybe we can make an app for that, basically, where there's a map that people can kind of look around and click on different booths, and they can also gather information so that when they do leave, they can say, oh, hey, I remember that booth. I want to contact them, or I want to do something with that booth. So it kind of just helps the average person when they come to one of these events. So I contribute by app development.
I have to unmute. Thank you. So,
The question, will that
Ross?
be for iOS, Android, or what's your target?
Starting off with Android just because that's what I'm most comfortable with at this point, but it doesn't mean that I'll leave out on the iPhone. I'll definitely be looking into doing that as well, but first starting out with Android.
Sure.
So Ross, can you talk about some of the things that you really like doing, and some of the kinds of things that you've been doing as a volunteer?
So I'm a firmware engineer. I've got interest in a whole bunch of different things. UAVs, robotics, 3D printing. I can't think of any more right now, but I'm sure there are others. Anyways, as through my travels through various meetup groups, I ran into someone named Travis who talked about this thing called a Maker Faire. And that's how I got involved in all of this. Lately, I've been, well, kind of helping to promote the Maker movement by trying to get more people involved to help produce this event. So, and also to get some additional speakers for some of our meetups.
Ross has been very effective at bringing people in because, oh, I'm echoing, sorry. Ross is actually the person who kind of talked to Conrad about coming into the group. And just one other thing Ross didn't mention is that he has a little robot, a Sparky robot, and he took some time and programmed Sparky to do a great little demo, a tabletop demo, and it's worked really well as a piece to attract attention and bring people over and talk to them about making, because it sits on the table and Sparky's job is to clear out his square. He's got some sensors, and if you put a couple of plastic cups down, Sparky turns around in his square until he sees a plastic cup, and then he pushes it until it's out of the square, but he stays inside. Ross set that up for us for Steam Maker Fest, which was in December, and we had people who stood there, you know, and for 5 or 10 minutes just watching Sparky moving the cups around, trying to figure out how it worked, and talking to us about the robot and programming. So, Ross, I think you're a great example of somebody who's doing lots of different interesting things as a volunteer.
You know, Margie, as you were just talking, you mentioned several events. You mentioned Steam Maker Faire. You mentioned Steam. I'm going to get them all confused. Steam Family Day, Steam Maker Fest. There was Robo Expo. There are ongoing regular opportunities for us to promote making and get San Diego Makers Guild name and face out there. But the ingredient I wanted to talk about was when Dan shows up, he brings a 3D printer. When I show up, I bring a small quad and a big quad, so I'm ready to talk to kids about the differences and the way they could start with one and grow to the other and how they're different. And people at our tables are usually there representing something they care about. It's a great way to contribute to what we're doing here, and it's something that you can drive just because it's something you care about. You don't sit there talking about something you don't care about usually. You're talking about what's another example? Oh, Kevin, and you know those LED things you used for your wedding? Those nameplates?
Yeah, I remember my wedding, yes.
Those were awesome, though. But those were awesome, right? Everybody came and they looked at them and they were intrigued by it. And you know, I stood in for a little bit at the table one time and explaining how it worked, and people just loved that kind of insight. And obviously, you had a big part of yourself in that project, which makes it all the more compelling for people to hear the story from you, since it was your baby, right? So I just wanted to make the point, Margie, that not only are the events, but there's an opportunity at every one of those events to play a role. And one of the most important roles is sharing something you care about to inspire those who come by. And there are other roles around it, like, for instance, the coordination, etc. But everybody who's on these calls is a maker of some way, shape, or form. And there are just ways to get that making out there and have it make a difference.
Absolutely. That's great, Travis. Conrad, can you tell us, you know, if you've heard people talking about different things that they've done, are there things that you really enjoy doing that might connect to possible ways that you might consider volunteering?
Sure. I get, as Travis has talked about, I also have a quadcopter. I have a 3D printer. I have a lot of toys. There's a lot of things that I can show that I've done on my own as a hobbyist to enthuse all the young kids as to what you can do now with the capability of the Arduino, the 3D printing, and just a lot of cool stuff that kids can do themselves without going to the store and actually buying something. They can make something, and that's something that I'm doing right now, and hopefully I can instill in them. And that's what it's all about. This movement is about making things that you actually put effort into and you understand them, and that's what I want to see and instill in the kids. That's the best way to do everything like that. So it's pretty cool. So I can bring my toys basically and talk about them and just let them ask and show them why it's so awesome.
Uh-huh. Is that something you really enjoy doing? Do you enjoy talking to kids and interacting with them?
I do. I see kids as well as myself when I was younger, except I didn't have those toys. Except now I can afford them and I can I can do all the cool stuff I want to do. But working and then playing with toys, it's all fun. So it's good to give back and show them why it's so awesome that they live in such a great time with all these you know, Arduinos and 3D printing and just the internet and just all the open source nature of things. They have a lot of resources in front of them. They just need to know where to look. A lot of the answers are out there. They just have to kind of put it all together themselves and just be resourceful. So that's what I see it being as. So,
great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yuen, you had some thoughts about maybe some volunteer positions that we might think about, and I'll get you to talk about those in just a minute. Before we do, I just wanted to ask Travis to talk about one other thing, because Travis, we've been talking about the tables, we've been talking about all the different events. But one of the things that you've done a lot with and we haven't really talked about is the whole idea of building, that if you're a maker and you really love to build, are there opportunities to do that as part of the volunteering? So I thought maybe we could talk about the cupcake cards.
I love it. That was one of the most gentle setups I've heard. Anybody on this call not know where she was going with that?
I'm unmuting myself just so I can say great segue, Margie.
So, I mean, I could talk about it, but I'd like to just see whether or not Dan or Katie would prefer, because I've already said plenty, and we haven't heard much from them. If not, I'll go ahead and talk. But Dan or Katie, would you like to talk about the Cupcake Project?
Sure, I'll jump in. It's a joint effort. Connor, if you're familiar with the cupcake cars from all the Maker Fairs, we want to have our own set of cupcake cars here in San Diego. So we're trying to pull the community together to do a group build of, our goal is to have 6 San Diego cupcake cars, and we'd start by building the frames up here in North County. So it'd be some economies of scales, get the parts kind of all the same, and then spread them out to other maker spaces around the county. Send some down to Katie at Fab Lab, maybe some over at Cherry Wings and San Marcos, and to do the top decorations. To get more people involved and more the real creative top part with more folks involved in that. Katie, any additional thoughts on the decoration part?
I think, I have to say Travis is really, I think, has a great passion for the Cupcake Project, as noted by the mini monkey cupcake, which has definitely done its job of, getting folks excited about the large cupcake to come. It's just a fun project. It's apparent to me, especially after speaking with the PR people from the mayor's office who were thoroughly confused as to why in the world I would want to bring a motorized cupcake as an example of innovation. It was like just I was speaking another language completely, but it made it apparent much of an emblem for Maker Faire it is to those of us that know and love Maker Faire. For us, we don't even question, it's very obvious, but it is kind of a in the inner circle reference. So at any rate.
One other thing about these cupcake cars, the notion of a group build is a wonderful team building activity. When you can get a group of people together to build Fab Lab out, or to work on getting open source maker labs ready, when you can have people come in and work on the 3D printer lab in the library, or for what our causes are, maybe there are some types of really beautiful making examples that we need for big outdoor spaces. Maybe these cupcakes are an example of that. But last time around we had Kim and her family make all of these different types of poles that we would use for signage, etc. We don't have those right now. We may need to do another group build around that. So one thing, Margie, I would love for us to be doing is just periodic group builds. I know that Katie and Dan are both open to supporting those activities in North and South County, and I think almost more than the benefit of the end product is the benefit of what it does amongst us as people who get to know one another, people who learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, people who learn each other's passions, and the friendships that develop. And it's just such a great exercise that that's one area where I personally would like to put more time in, and I'm hoping that there are people who have good ideas for what we can do, and we can get a little bit of a rhythm going on that topic.
That's great. And I really like that idea of having periodic group builds. So let's get that on the calendar. Maybe Dan, maybe you could tell us a good think about it. Give us a couple of possible dates and times, and we'll see if we can plug those into the schedule.
Absolutely.
So, anybody else want to talk about Jose, the things that you really love to do, and Yuen, the things that you really love to do?
Yeah, sure. I can talk a bit on this. I right now I have a baby, so right now it's keep the job number one is keep baby alive. Um, After that, it's I did a lot of work with Arduinos and robotics in the past, and I haven't got as much time as I wanted to. I've actually been more in the realm of kind of like what Kevin's been into with app development. I've started to kind of tinker a bit more in Azure from Microsoft and their offerings, and just seeing kind of how the APIs worked in my free time over the past few weeks. So more technology in a different direction, but still making cool stuff. So I'm really looking forward to Steam Family Day and what we have coming up at Balboa Park, as well as all the other things that we do and the ongoing stuff that we have going through the library. So the cupcake cards, I think, are going to be really fun. You know, I think a big part of this is kind of figuring out what the base is going to be, and the base, kind of the framework for all of that is going to be for all of those. But the decorating and the styling, and it's going to be a great time. So we're really looking forward to that as well.
I don't know if you recognize this, Jose, but you started off talking about something very significant that you made. 2 babies.
A baby?
Yes, I did. Yeah, technically, I did make some of those, some of that. My wife made the babies.
I just actually want to make a quick note. So we've talked about how at least people here have contributed to the group, and Kim, who's not here. But what about the person who is currently not contributing and would like to? So how would that person come into the fold and say, hey, I want to do something, be it something online with some kind of development, be it face-to-face, being at booths, being part of the make groups where you're making cupcakes or you're making something else, doesn't matter what it is. How does someone come in and say, I want to do something with the makers?
Awesome. Great question, Kevin. So first thing is we would love it if somebody is watching this, if you email us. The email is volunteer@sdmakersguild.org, and let us know what you'd like to do. Another way to reach us is to come to one of our meetups. And our meetups are listed under San Diego Mini Maker Faire in meetup.com. Our next meetup is actually going to be at Fab Lab, where Katie is right now, on February the 16th at 6:30 p.m. Let me just double check that date so I'm given the right date here. Yep, February 16th, 6:30 p.m. That'll be a great opportunity to meet people and see what's going on. And on that meetup page, there are a lot of other meetups posted, meetups at the library. Ewan is the Emerging Technologies librarian at San Diego Central Library, and so there are a number of meetups there. It's a great place to go and meet her. But we also post our other meetups, so when we get the group builds going, they'll be posted there. So those are all different ways of saying, hey, I'd really like to come in and participate. Have I forgotten anything? Anybody have other suggestions?
I just wanted to make the comment that this is kind of an ecosystem we've got going here. There are places that do making in various forms in schools, universities, museums, libraries, etc. But a really important source of making and important hubs for making in this county for regular consumers like you or me is to go to either the library, the central library, or one of the maker spaces like Fab Lab or Open Source Maker Lab. That's where you can find makers. That's where you can find tools. That's where you can learn how to use those tools. That's where you can get engaged in projects with other people. If people are interested in this topic, they're usually interested in making. And those are some of the best places to go to. So only by people knowing about them and at least visiting and touring would they necessarily know if they want to take a next step. But it's a really good one. The other one that Margie mentioned, I'd just like to really reinforce is UN has so many meetup groups on making taking place at the library. Just go to the San Diego Central Library Makers, or it's Makers of San Diego Central Library. It's in meetup.com. And you'll see how many varied things there are. I saw a knitting group, there's 3D printing group, there's Arduino group that's working on soft circuits. It's really a great place to go. And more libraries are sort of taking the lead from places like San Diego Central.
And I want to piggyback on that too, and just mention real quick that if there's a certain topic that hasn't been brought up yet, doesn't mean that we're not, thinking about it, or that we're not capable of working on said topic. I'm pretty sure that everyone, when they came to this group, no one basically said, "Hey, I think you should focus on this one thing." They actually came into the group saying, "I want to work on these things. How can we do these things together?" So that really just grew, and everyone's just supporting each other left and right. So it's really just not only a place to learn, but really a place to grow together when it comes to education, when it comes to communication, and just friendship too.
Yeah. I think that's a great comment, Kevin, and along those lines, Kim, who couldn't be here tonight, isn't here tonight because she's at a woodworkers group meeting. So I just wanted to be sure to say that the Makers Guild is not just about robotics and Arduinos and drones and 3D printers. We're also really excited to have people who are doing traditional crafting who are working in completely different mediums, metal sculpture, woodworking. We're very welcoming and very open, and so people are involved in a lot of different things. And I would just say, too, that all the things that Jose mentioned, one of the things he didn't mention is that he is the primo print buyer for Makers Guild activities. And so he was really involved in the marketing effort last year. And that's something that we really want to develop again as a marketing team. If you love telling stories, you know somebody who loves telling stories, who's big on Twitter or likes to write blogs, we would love to hear from you because we definitely need to do some more things to help communicate the different opportunities that are available in San Diego. And speaking of marketing and communicating about things, I think, Katie, can you talk a little bit about what's happening next week?
I can, but we're drilling through concrete in the background, so I think we have a pause, so it might be a little loud, sorry. We figured it'd be nice to have fully functional electrical by the time the mayor got here. We thought that would be good. So we're putting grounding rods in tonight. You know what, let me come right back in just a moment because it's going to get really very, very loud. I'm sorry. It should be over in just a minute. I apologize.
Okay, no problem.
So would this be a good time to do a shout out for volunteers that we would need for STEAM Family Day?
Yes, it would. Perfect. Thank you, Janine. Go for it.
So what I know right now is the Spanish Village is going to have a make and take. We don't know what that is going to be, but they would like to have 1 or 2 volunteers help the children with the make and take.
Janine, can you back up and just give a little background on what STEAM Family Day is and where it is and what days?
I'll let Travis do that.
So real briefly.
You're up, Travis.
Thank you. Real briefly, there are a few public events in Balboa Park that are run by the Conservancy. There are 2 of them called STEAM Family Day and October Halloween Night or something like that. STEAM Family Day is an event they stage this year on March 15. It will officially run from 11 till 3, though some of the museums will vary on that. And what we started doing with them last year was to place theme-appropriate makers within the museums. So, for instance, we have a lady who does remarkable woodworking with either laser cut work or CNC milled work to make folding, collapsing furniture that you can just mount on the wall, for instance. And it's just really cool, and it's really consistent with one of the things the Menge has of this one artist named Stockton, and it is going to really ratchet up what they have in terms of available to families to come see, and there will be an activity, a kids activity. So this used to be associated with the San Diego Science and Engineering Festival. Last year it became independent as STEAM Family Day. That's also when we got involved. And it is a family day, so with each of the venues we also try to include some sort of making activity. Either they do it themselves or we help them. And so, for instance, Margie's doing something, and Kat is doing something, and Janine is doing something, and others are doing things. And that's the purpose that we serve, is to bring makers into this setting to really make the museums more interesting over the course of that day, bring the theme of STEAM in, and as we do, or strive to do so often, to make a hands-on activity available to folks that they can learn from. And so that's sort of the background there.
Thanks, Travis.
But go ahead, Janine, with the what we're looking for.
Okay, so the San Diego Art Institute, they're going to be doing the recycled art, so they need a couple volunteers to help with the kids to do take apart, just to show kids maybe how they would use the tools to take apart electronics and how to be safe in doing that. And then the artist that's in there making jewelry said that she could use a couple of hands to help her with the kids to putting the items that they just took apart and create jewelry out of them. And then the only other thing that we're looking at this point might be some people to help with load and unload. Simply because if an artist is pulling up their car and having to unload, then that means their car is having to sit there idly while they're in the museum. So we might need somebody just for a short period of time to help load and unload. And then they could actually go and enjoy the event for the rest of the time. That's what I know of. I know there's more needed.
And I think UN might know of. What does James need something in the fleet?
Yes.
Okay. James is helping in the fleet doing paper airplane, because we're launching paper airplane.
And rockets.
And air rockets. No, that's aerospace.
Okay, yeah. Different.
So, and the Girl Scouts, I'm not sure if James will be helping the Girl Scouts, but they'll be soldering.
But
James,
does he need any volunteers? Or do you already know that, Margie? Sorry.
Well, we should announce here that, yes, we do need, James would very much like to have 2 volunteers at the fleet to help with paper airplanes.
What about
addition,
Kim?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Kim at the table, has she figured out what volunteer help she needs?
The table hasn't figured out what help she needs, but I am estimating that we will probably need another 5 people at the tables, because we have 3 tables, so we're going to need several people to be at the tables. For the activity that we're doing in the art museum, we may need at least 1 more volunteer for the art museum. And we're not sure what, Travis, have you had any more updates on whether or not we need any volunteers for the MOPA activity with Dragon?
No, just so you folks know, MOPA is going through some construction, and they don't know exactly when their completion date is or what the layout availability will be on that day. So we may well have 1 quadcopter photographer, a guy by the name of Dragon, who does just some fantastic work there. But we also have set up a activity for kids where on the floor we'll have an aerial view of the Balboa Park from the sky, and we have little quadcopters. There are about 20 of them made of popsicle sticks in different designs and laser cutting, and they're going to be playing aerial photography on a display and then freezing that. And then they're going to ask the kids, okay, so where was this quadcopter when this frame was taken. And so kids have to think about elevation and perspective and distance, and they'll get to talk among themselves. It's going to be really kind of cool photographic activity for the kids. I just hope it happens. We don't know yet, Margie.
Okay, great, thank you. I think that covers the volunteer needs as far as I know. So almost, I would say, a dozen people, most of them 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., but for those volunteers who might be helping makers unload and move in, Janine, do you know how early the makers are going to start moving into the museum?
So far, most of the museums are still coming back to when they want them there from 11 to 3, but they haven't given me specific times for move-in. So I think that's as we get close, we'll know a little bit better.
Hey, Margie, can I throw one more thing in there, because people listening to this may have heard this extra person in the mix. So I asked Yuen about James at the Fleet, and you just asked Janine about, say, Christy Oates at the Menge. We've been working towards having curation relationships between our group and the individual museums, and that's yet another way of volunteering. So for instance, Jose is working with the Model Railroad Museum, and Dan with the Air and Space Museum. And there are other roles still to be filled, but if you happen to have a passion for one of these museums, like I feel particularly fond of the Photographic Institute and the History Center. And so I'm working with Kat, with the Photographic Institute. It's called MOPA, the Museum of Photographic Arts. And then the History Center, we haven't quite figured out what to do there. But if you have a passion for one of these museums, stepping in and helping on that would be really, really useful, especially if we have more events with them in the future, that is to say with the museums and the other institutions in the park. Certainly there will be STEAM Family Day next year, for instance.
Yeah, and I believe that Margie is trying to make a point here with the website, in that we do have at the sdmakersguild.org, there's a volunteer page that I believe at this point that it's not fully detailed, but we post potential volunteer spots that people can fill in if they're not too sure for any particular spot that they want to fill. So they're just curious, saying, where can I help? Here's a list of locations and tasks and things like that they can do. They can just click sign up and provide your name and email, and that's basically all you need to do. And then we'll contact you and we'll work out the details. So that's an easy way to see what spots are available.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. And one other thing that we would love to have is somebody to coordinate volunteers, or at least to coordinate volunteers for different events. As you can see, a lot of people in the group are working with different makers, like Janine is working with makers to bring them into the museums, but we would really benefit from having a couple of people who are, definitely working to do outreach into various different maker groups. So if you've got a passion for doing your car, and you're one of those people who has a beautiful antique car and you've brought it back to perfection, and you love that, and you would love to go into some of the Cruising on Grand and some of the other car events over the course of the summer, and talk to them about making and introduce them to the idea that, yep, they are makers and we would love to have them participate in events, that would be fantastic.
Bicycles, oh man, do we want to find bicycle hackers. There's another example. Seriously, there's so many interests, and this is such a making county. Oh. We just don't have a good enough connection into groups. So anybody who knows a group and they happen to maybe enjoy that group, or maybe just like the notion of reaching out, let us know so that we can load you up with information and you can go talk to those groups. We want to make those connections. This is the Makers Guild. We're trying to bring together the connections between all the various groups and leverage each other.
So Conrad, I saw you waving when Travis mentioned.
He's a bike hacker.
Travis, when you said cycling, like are you talking about people that cycle but somehow track their rides or modify their bikes, or are you?
One of the beauties is I didn't mean to put any bounds on it. So
Okay.
let's say if there was somebody or a community that was all about quantified self and bicycling, that's a cool niche, right? And so, well, why not talk to them? What I had in my mind when I was saying it was bike hackers who maybe take bikes and turn them into art, or who do outrageous extremes with bicycles, like making them double-decker or making them the low-riders, or maybe they love doing electronics on their bicycles. They're hacking in. Here's what I mean. Go to bikehackers.org, I think, and you can just see the wide variety of things that people do. But I didn't mean to put any bounds on it because we want to get everybody that is interested into the picture.
Okay, I understand. I got you. I just I was interested because I'm a cyclist myself, and I love cycling a lot. I'm actually doing a double century next month.
Oh my!
I don't know if you know what that is. That's 200 miles on a bike. So
wow.
yeah, I'm one of those nuts.
You probably don't have any time for hacking that bike. You're on it all the time.
I'm on it all the time, but I have fun, and it's something else. That's another passion I have.
We have a healthy person here, everybody. We have a healthy person.
Oh, very, very healthy. He's actually a triathlete. He doesn't just ride his bike. But Conrad, I'm interested. Have you ever actually done things to try to tune up your bike, like to change your seat, change your handlebars, rewrap things? Because that's all making as well. It doesn't have to be turning your bike into art. If you've tried to customize your own bike, then you're doing making as well.
Well, as far as the bike, a lot of the stuff that sensors and such is already built. But my real interest is, I have a lot of data. I just as much as I have toys with 3D printers and helicopters and quadcopters, my bike is all decked out, and the coolest thing about it is I have all this information that I can retrieve from it, the GPS, I have a power meter on there to show you all these things, and I like looking at data. I've amassed maybe like 3 years worth of data on my as far as my trips on my bike, but it's quite interesting. I thought about it, and I've never tried it yet, but it'd be interesting to see a heat map. I don't know if you know what a heat map is of just how much cycling I've done. That might be something interesting to see as far as not so much hacking the bike, but seeing how far I've gone and to what extent someone can go with their bike. I just thought about it right now, but that would be something cool. Maybe like some kind of picture or some kind of visual representation of just how much a person can do and what does that data look like. You can take data and represent it in a way that people might find interesting. There's a lot of ways you can go about doing this. So,
somebody out there just commented in the chat, data is beautiful. Who is that? You, Kevin?
This whole site's dedicated to gathering data and looking at charts and things like that. Data is beautiful.
Yeah.
So at our last meetup, I met someone who was he's doing a Kickstarter for motorcycles, and he was putting on a sensor for riding in groups and having, if I recall, his brake lights come on when you basically throttle to warn people behind you that you're actually slowing down. He also mentioned that he was doing this, or planning on doing a similar thing for bikes, and unfortunately, I don't have his contact information, or I didn't get his name. Anyways, if anybody can recall this, that might be a good person to contact.
Yeah, definitely. He's in the North County Makers group, the open source makers group. He was here last week. So we can contact him up here.
Small world.
Actually, I know it's a small world. Everybody, I think we need to welcome Kevin back with something like a "Welcome back, man!"
Very, very happy to see you back.
Well,
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
I was never truly away. It was more like a break, and I'm sure each one of us has done a break at some point. Mine just happened to correspond with me moving out of state and getting married. So here I am still.
And we're really happy you're still there. Katie, did the noise stop? Katie?
There we go. Yes, it
Awesome.
has. Yeah, it's actually looking like it might not have totally stopped. So anyway, I'll try to talk quickly. Margie, tell me again what you wanted me to chime in on.
I just wanted you to talk briefly about what's happening there next week. Just let people know.
Thanks. So Wednesday, a week from today, at 10 a.m., we will do what we're calling a relaunch event. It's in conjunction with a crowdfund campaign and Indiegogo campaign that we're doing right now to relaunch the Fab Lab. And we have confirmation that the mayor is coming, and I went and 3D scanned him a couple days ago, and so we will do a whole silly sort of PR gimmick where we will present him with a bust of himself, and most importantly, it's going to be a big showcase of, making in downtown San Diego, and we will have representation for obviously not just Fab Lab, but many of the communities that we partner with or that incubate within the lab, and we would really love to have representation from Makers Guild and Maker Faire. Obviously, Travis has committed to providing some of that, but I would love to make a space. Sorry about the sound. I'd love to make a space to have some displays and point the mayor, especially with his Makers Initiative, toward the work that this group is doing.
Great.
Can I add something that Katie missed? So
yes, please.
We supposed to ask people for help, but so the mayor isn't going to announce it, but one of his people is going to mention the Mayor's Maker Challenge at the event. So I thought it would be nice if, a lot more of us showed up to the event and not only showcase some of the stuff that we're working, but maybe help with curating the other makers who are going to be there. Just to kind of help Katie out, because I know she'll be busy that day running around, and I think it'll be really good if we kind of have a really good curation for the event, just because it's a good time for us to kind of show what we've been doing.
Great, definitely. Okay, good. Just to reiterate, if, as Kevin said, if you're interested, you have ideas, you want to volunteer, how can you reach us? So there's Makers Guild email address, volunteer@sdmakersguild.org. You can send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. You can go to the sdmakersguild.org website, click on volunteer, and get a list of some of the opportunities. We'll be expanding that, including some of the things that we've talked about tonight. And you can also come to the meetups. Our next meetup is February the 16th. It's a Monday, 6:30 p.m. at Fab Lab. That's 847 14th Street. The locations of the meetups vary, so go to meetup.com. And if you go to meetup.com, you'll notice that there's also meetups for the makers of Central Library. And those are meetup groups sponsored at the library by UN. And a lot of those meetups overlap. We try to cross-promote each other, so that's another great way to get involved. As Travis mentioned, there are maker spaces. So Dan's Maker Space, Open Source Maker Labs in Vista. Is a way to get involved in the community, and the makerspace that Katie runs, Fab Lab, at its brand new and soon to have electricity location 847 14th Street. And Katie just noted that if you're looking in Google Maps, be sure you type in 92101. Otherwise, you're going to end up in Chula Vista. And so that's perfect. And I think, Katie, I'm really happy that you talked about the mayor coming. I think it's really important to let people know that the makers in San Diego are getting a lot more visibility. We're definitely part of promoting making, and a lot of, if one of the things that you'd love to do as a volunteer involves bringing awareness to your kind of making, that would be great. Come to us, bring us your ideas. We would love to have your involvement. Anybody else have any final wrap-up words before we shut down?
I only wanted to make an observation that Yuen has been very quiet, and it may be that because she's on this call with a second person, that's why she's been quiet, and that maybe we should always arrange for it to be that somebody is with her during one of these calls.
And the teasing begins.
I didn't notice it before, but even when you're driving in your car, you're noticeably more involved while you're driving in the movie.
I was listening, and I decided, to give some new people a chance to talk. To be honest, I'm really excited about Dance Laser Cutter, so that's really why I'm here. So yes, if you want to hear the truth. But in fairness, I'm doing it for a few causes, including Katie's cause. So.
Guys, all we had to do was prick Yuen, and we started to get a good outflow of ideas and information. Keep going, Yuen.
Thanks, by the way, Dan and Yuen, for making those little signs. I appreciate it.
I haven't even gone there, Katie.
Oh, don't worry.
On my cutting board.
Regardless.
We get it.
All right, so if that's it, I'm going to stop the broadcast. So.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Good night.
Have a good night.